Hi, my name is Hector Acuna, and in this video I'm going to be showing you two different limited palettes based on my color chart of my kind of everyday palette of colors that I like to use when oil painting. So what I'm doing is looking at this chart and picking two different colors or pigments and using those as my starting points for a sketch, kind of like a color sketch. And I have a 6x9" panel here that I'll do the first painting on. I'm hoping this only takes 45 minutes to an hour. It's gonna be a really loose kind of geometric painting focused on big shapes and organizing colors. I think I'm gonna use this chair up on top of the cabinets as my subject matter for the paintings. And I'm here in the painting studio at the University of Minnesota Morris, where I'm currently teaching a remote painting course. So the two colors that I'm gonna do the first painting on are phthalo green, which is this color string of tints. So there's just various amounts of white added to that initial color. And then cadmium red light. Okay, well, I was gonna paint inside, but it's so nice outside, I might as well spend the afternoon out here. There's a nice little patio right off of the studio here. I need to get a bigger block of wood. Okay, so change of plan. We're outside on this balcony. I'm gonna end up painting some sort of architectural view of part of campus here by the Humanities Fine Arts Building. The colors I'm working with here are phthalo green and cad red light. Now I tinted both of them up a little bit on the value scale. I don't want this to be a super dark painting, but I'm gonna work from these two as my darkest points, and I'm probably gonna start out by mixing some sort of middle gray just to see what the neutral looks like between these two colors. So you can see this has a pretty gray hue, pretty achromatic hue. It's still a little cool. So if I grab more of my cad red, it'll get a bit warmer and start to neutralize. So this is kind of where I'll be, the range or gamut that I'll work within for this first painting. Now, something you can do once you have that middle gray is make a pile or mixture in between your achromatic gray and each end of your limited palette. So if I take a small amount of this gray, bring it over here and mix it with some of my cad red, I'll get a warmer gray that sits in between the two colors. And this is helpful just to be able to see different areas of the palette really quickly. So one of the nice things about this complementary palette that I picked is that I have a cool and a warm, so I can use temperature to create depth and space by placing some of my cooler tones and colors in the information that is further along in the distance, and trying to keep some of these warmer planes that are closer to me and in direct sunlight painted with really warm areas of my limited palette. Something I didn't mention earlier was when you make your own middle neutral like this, it's helpful that you can remember or know that the gray that you're mixing from your initial colors is going to be really harmonious with both, because you're using each of those to create that middle gray. So as opposed to buying a tube of gray, this is where it really pays off to mix up your own middle gray. So I'm going to start by toning this, kind of like I did with the rail car painting from yesterday. This is going to get rid of our white background and just again give us a way to start with a more uniform surface. So I'm taking my slightly cool achromatic gray, blocking this in with some Gamsol. And once I get the whole surface, I will wipe it to smooth out the textures and to just get rid of some of the Gamsol because I don't want it to be too wet on the surface. This also is going to help me work from a more neutral zone into heavier chroma and saturation. So it's going to be easier for me to control how much saturation my colors are going to have then. And you can do this like days or weeks or months before you start a painting if you want to tone your panels. Sometimes it pays to just wait to do it until you're about to start your painting. That way you know you're going to use a color that is already really harmonious with your palette, but there's no rule that says you have to do it this way. So I'm blocking in some of those distant trees. Can bring in a little bit more of a warmer gray. There are some warm moments in the tree line there. And I'm keeping that area really loose and gestural and abstract for now. I don't want to go in and define anything too clearly because I want this information of the building to be closer. So loosening up the description of the tree line or those snow shapes back there is going to help me gauge how much information I should put on the building, which is closer to us. One of the things that really helps me at this early stage in a painting is trying to figure out where my warmest areas are going to go versus my coolest areas. Now, when I look at this view, the sidewalk and areas of the building are much warmer than the snow or the tree line or even areas of this building here. So I'm using bits and pieces of my gamut and trying to keep things close to the muted area and working from the muted area towards chroma or saturation. So what I'll do is take my brush and mix a little bit of white to brighten up the value and maybe pull in a little bit of the red just to warm it up to get these kind of grayish pink tones, just so I can start to separate where areas of temperature are going to be. And this helps me to identify, you know, like big zones in the painting early on in the process. You know, and even though the grass is kind of a yellowish green, I'm gonna have to find a different color to describe that because I don't have yellow or any sort of orange on my palette. But knowing that everything is relative, if I can keep this slightly warmer than the shadow plane of the building, which is very cool and in shadow and dark in value, it'll help this area of the painting read as being in light more than the Plein that's cooler and darker. Just going to create some abstract marks up here. So right now what I'm trying to do is say as much information as I can with the fewest amount of marks or decisions, and really trying to get to the essence of the forms that I can see in the trees and in different planes, through things like value and temperature. And that's helping me to locate where some pretty key differences are in the structure of the view. Right, because it helps and it really pays off to start with the basic shapes and the basic descriptions of things, because a lot of times, you know, that very small mark or that really quick decision to describe something is enough information for the viewer to put everything together. You don't have to sit and recreate every little detail that you see in the view. So for me, it helps to really just focus on the simplistic versions of what I can see, right? The most basic feel or look or shape that I'm noticing in the view. Okay, I think that's it. I think I'm all done. This was about an hour and 20 minutes total, maybe an hour and a half to do the painting. I really like how it turned out. I like this complementary palette here. I'll show you what it looks like in the sun. You can get a better sense of some of the color relationships there. But obviously it has a very compressed value structure. You know, you can see it up against the view that I was painting. Some of those really dark areas just had to be portrayed with the phthalo green alone. And I think it worked out overall. So I don't have time to do a second painting, unfortunately, but hopefully this is a inspiring painting just to, you know, demonstrate the amount of harmony that we can get when we limit our initial colors on our palette, and how working between those two ends gives us this really rich, subtle range to get into some of those muted achromatic areas, which allow the really saturated moments to pop really effectively once we decide to put those into the painting. So anyway, that's how it turned out. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching, and have a nice day.